Starting with competitive strategy of first model of this chapter, the generic model. So generally we see there are three generic model. Some of the textbook also mention a fourth dimension, because when you draw any rectangular presentation, so basically what happens is, if we try to draw any model, let me just draw something like this. And when we talk about the cost on one scale and focus here, you'll see there are four strategies to follow. So in the similar fashion, some textbook show the fourth dimension, the fourth column as well for generic strategy, but these three are quite popular. The fourth one is focus differentiation, which we'll talk about when we'll discuss the PPT. But there are three popular strategy under Porter's generic strategy. And this talks about where the firm is trying to focus. Is the focus on the cost basis, or it is trying to differentiate itself? And then the third dimension is positioning the business in a niche, which means trying to only serve a very particular niche in a specialized manner. So, you know, some Italian luxury watch or luxury garment company. So they will have a very differentiated, narrowly differentiated market, because differentiation is already done here. When we try to provide really expensive but high quality products, then it is differentiation. In case of focus, we serve such a narrow market that it is not differentiated, but focusing only on that market with high quality and maybe expensive services. So the aim for generic strategy is to find out what the customer needs and what is their preference. So some will focus on the cost, like you'll see a public bus, right? They are very cost and price sensitive. Whereas you find differentiation when Uber like taxi services are launched. They have their own requirement. They want to reach on time in a convenient manner. But then you find out focus, whereby you have someone asking to provide a Lamborghini from the hotel pickup. So that is a focus. So if we just take the transport as a service, there could be three different requirement and demand from the market. Next is how to serve them. So first, focus of cost leadership will be economy of scale, because it is very, very cost efficient. So it will be like one size fits all. Hence, it will serve economies of scale. Volume is their strategy. So they will try to have 1% margin, but they will try to cover mass. Use of learning effects, they will try to achieve the learning curve fast. Of course, the production runs, something like we have seen the large manufacturing scale in Chinese production house. And this is one of the reasons why often we hear the battle in the World Trade organizations and bodies, that US blames that China is dumping their product in US market. And the reason is China tried to manufacture at a large scale, because when the large scale manufacturing is done, the cost overall, including the fixed cost, will start to go down, right? The contribution will be achieved. The contribution per product will be very, very low. So in order to break even, they try to manufacture at a big scale, and that way they will reduce the cost and will become more competitive in the market. So that is one of the reasons why large production focus on the cost leadership. Using cheaper labor, So everything now falls in place, like a use of learning curve, large production houses. Of course, that they need cheaper labor and material both, and moving to cheaper premises or destination country, and cost leadership is very popular in garments or shoe manufacturing, etc., which is not very quality sensitive material. If there is any defect, it will not cause much havoc. Whereas electronic business will try to um, adopt a differentiation strategy, whereby there has to be a quality focus in order to cater to different consumer market. So to offer a product that can't be matched by rivals and charge a premium for their differences. Now, that doesn't mean that at any given point of time, a company will only focus one group. So it will not focus on group one or group two, etc. Are you with me so far? So basically, in the differentiation, the company will try to adopt a strategy. So for group A, group 1A, group 2B, and each of the strategy will focus only on particular group. Of course, they will charge premium for this, for each of the group, and that premium will be such a balance that it will not be the cost leadership, it will not be focused, but it will be just a right price for the higher than average quality. So most of the electronic consumer groups, they adopt this strategy to customize their services for different groups and decide the right price for them. And
give an example for focus.
Yeah, we'll go through example for focus. So let's say if we take the example of cloth industry, right? And typical European market or UK market, because then it will help you give the example in the exam as well. So Marks and Spencer, that would be a differentiation is strategy based clothing company, because they try to provide a high quality clothing to those who seek a good brand and good quality of cloth as well. Cost leadership can be, Neha, Lidl is still serving in UK market the cloth.
It is, yes.
Right. So because what I have seen, they will provide the clothing in 25% marks, 25% of total price, or 30% of the Marks and Spencer. There'll be massive difference in the price. Just 30% of the M&S, which is differentiation based clothing company. And because of that, their volume is high. Almost everyone buy like 70% of the people will buy from Lidl, in the expectation that even if you use once or twice and throw, it is still worth. So that is a cost leadership, very, very cost effective cloth from Lidl. Whereas if you want to go to Zara, they will provide you a focus based product or any premium brand, be it in cosmetic or clothing. So that will be a good example for clothing itself, from Lidl to Marks and Spencer and Zara, because they just try to keep increasing their cost and brand value, perceived value in fact, and with that perceived value, they charge a premium price. The difference between cost leadership to differentiation and differentiation to focus can be quite high, because the price escalates with each higher level of the strategy they focus. We have this in the car market as well, right? If we look at the cars, even in India, What is the cost focus?
So Maruti.
Maruti, yeah, I was going to write that. Maruti. Then a differentiation. Honda City, or
I think Suzuki is based on cost, right? Or Alto, for example, or Suzuki
yeah.
Maruti, for example. They're just totally based on cost, right?
Actually, Suzuki is in the differentiation now, right? It is providing some kind of
Luxury cars as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
not luxury, but still good quality focused.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
What about the Tatas, the Altos?
Tata, Altos, yeah, that is one. So what should be the focus for the cost focus? Everyone can afford largely.
Yeah, the masses.
Yeah,
The volume game. Yeah.
mass, one size fits all. They don't segment. They try to achieve scale, low margin, and that's how they maximize the profit. Honda, City, Suzuki, or any such car. Volkswagen. They will still try to attract kind of upper middle class segments so that they can provide them some luxury, some choice, or they can cater to the need of a specific segment based on different family size, all the SUV providers, right? So in that case, you can clearly see that not everyone will go for all these 3-4 different brands. Despite the fact all of them will be good in quality, but not everyone will find them suitable. So what they are trying to do is within their higher middle class maybe market, they will have different strata to serve. A, B, C, D, E. And they will study the requirement of their market and the group, what they prefer, what they like, what kind of social impression they want to create. And accordingly, they will design the car, their servicing, after sales services. So when we are talking about the car, it is not just the product, or also the servicing that they offer. Overall brand value that they deliver, they will design based on different customer segments, A, B, C, D, E. And post that, they'll target the price and entire suite of services. And finally, we have luxury ones, which is focus, position the business in one particular niche in the market. So here, generally, we think that, okay, niche only means ultra wealthy, but not necessarily. It can be ultra luxurious car or something like Zara in the brand of, for the clothing, but it could be based on anything else. If you talk about the medical equipments, it can be focused on maybe one particular kind of disease or segment. When it comes to the car, it could be based on wealth. When it comes to education, it could be based on certain level, maybe postgraduate or graduate education. So when you try to focus on a particular niche, that is a focus strategy. It doesn't mean always being expensive as such.
So like in the automobile industry, if we take the example of Mini Cooper, can we say that's a focus based? Because
Mini Cooper.
yeah, they produce like different types of cars from the other brands, right? So that's a different market in itself.
It is a complete luxury brand. It has just remarketed itself, and now it comes under a luxury category.
Right. So it is then a focus strategy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Pratik, a right point actually reminded me that whenever we try to present any such thing, any product, that okay, whether it is luxury, whether it is a focus or differentiation, we must remember that immediately we need to provide our argument that is more important than the kind of the product itself. Because once you say Mini Cooper or when I say Jara, someone can argue that no, Jara is a differentiation. It is not focus. And we both can be right. So we have to provide our convincing argument and reasonable one that is more important than the brand or example itself. So you're right in terms of Mini Cooper and the fact that it is luxury brand, because kind of uniqueness it offers and the price it charges cannot be afforded by everyone. So it has to focus on a niche.
Yes, sir.
Any other example for this? From food segment?
So what about Subway? Can we say that's a focus-based company, right? Because they offer choice to customers to create their own sandwiches, as opposed to other restaurants that provide their own menu. So can you say that's focus-based?
No, because the key differentiation between the focus and differentiation would be that we are trying to kind of still serve the mass, right? When you ask someone to kind of design their own sandwich or even order it then and there, right? So you're not trying to focus, you're not trying to attract a kind of expensive or healthy customer or any particular type of customer. You are just giving them a choice, right?
Doesn't Subway target healthy customers as such? Like as compared to McDonald's and Burger King, people prefer Subway because it is healthier, right? So isn't the customer base a bit different?
Yeah, customer base is different and it is healthier, but like it attracts everyone, right? Not only those who are pursuing the healthy food. And you may be right. I mean, it's just the way we look at or we put forward the point. So it could be focused only if it attracts the healthy consumers, right? But it attracts everybody, right? It gives the choice those who are seeking healthy food or those who are diabetic, those who are health conscious, calorie conscious. So it attracts everyone. It has become the choice of more varieties of people, and it gives them the ability to choose what kind of food they want. What others feel? Because see, in that it may not be there may not be right or wrong answer, because even if you look at the different books, the same type of brand is argued in a different way. Because Subway is healthy, it gives you the flexibility and the choice, and often it is also you can see how it is being made. It is not packed already, right? So whatever is happening, it is in front of you. That's another benefit. So those who wants to see how their food is being prepared, that is also a plus point for Subway. Now, so the point is, do we argue that it is differentiated or focus? So position the business in one particular niche in the market. So rather than niche, it seems that it is just charging the premium, maybe for offer product that cannot be matched by rivals. It is trying to serve a bigger mass and trying to still offer them a large varieties of choices. Some can go for meat based product, right, in Subway. Some can go for totally vegetarian, right? Some can go for fish or egg. So it is giving the choice to bigger bigger mass as compared to focus. And that's why it seems that it will be better we brand this as differentiated product. Okay, let's see some more examples. Porter's generic model. So remember we talked about the grid like this. So scope of operation here, when we have very broad target versus narrow one, we can find out easily what kind of strategy is being pursued by a company. So cost and uniqueness. So in a way, we are not saying focus here, because when we call focus, it becomes a strategy. So cost and uniqueness on one side, and then broadness versus narrowness on another scale. So if we have a broad target of operation, mass versus, so here it is a mass marketing, mass target, and we try to cost low. So we have Walmart, or we are all familiar with this, world's biggest retail. So what they do, they almost operate at the cost level. Their margin is extremely thin, but what they serve is massively big market internationally. Of course, more predominant in US, but globally they are present, and they have subsidiaries also to operate. So they operate on a very thin margin, but at a mass scale. So cost at a mass market. When we talk about uniqueness and still serving the mass market. So remember, whenever you try to serve the mass market, but still want to be unique, then you have to do differentiation strategy and make the target and segments. So Nordstrom builds its differentiation strategy around offering designer merchandise and provide exceptional service. So now you see, when we talked about that, when the mass market is served, they still follow uniqueness, in which case for each group 1, 2, and 3, they have to have unique strategy to pursue, because ultimately they are still serving the broad target. They are not focusing. They are serving broad target with uniquely customized service and product for each of the segments. That is uniqueness and broad target. So differentiation strategy. Just charging my laptop. All right. So we are done with the broad target. Now narrow target. Under this, we have to look at low cost and cheap services or product. So here we have cost focused leadership. Dollar General does not offer a full array of consumer goods, but those that it does offer are priced to move. So who are they for? Price and cost sensitive customer. That's first requirement. Narrow in customer base. Cost efficiency is their strategy. Slight increase in cost can lose the market. So Dollar General. Even in the restaurant chain, we have B&B, right? Bed and breakfast. In UK and Europe, they are called B&B. Who they serve? Those floating population travelers who don't have big budget. So there is a bed and breakfast system in many European countries. So they serve at a very, very low cost. They provide a very basic accommodation and stay services. Who they serve to a very narrow target at an extremely low cost. So another example will be B&B. And then comes the uniqueness. So within narrow target, one is unique. What would that be? That comes to a luxury product segment. So generally, if you look at the women apparel, accessory, and home furnishing, there'll be extra luxury segment which they pursue. So what is the difference between narrow target uniqueness and broad target uniqueness? Both are unique. What is the difference between them? So that would be something like Lamborghini versus Tata, right? Tata can pursue all the different type of, it can provide the SUV, it can give you different segment-based car and services, but Lamborghini will serve a very narrowly defined target market, plus they will be unique and charge a premium price for that focus. Because despite the fact that they are unique, they are also providing extra luxurious product which no one can provide and copy. Because their focus is a very small slice of the society and market. So that is called focused differentiation. And this is the one I was talking about earlier, that many textbooks do not talk about this separately. Generally, you will hear cost leadership, focus, and differentiation, which is this. So differentiation, cost, and focus. And this is focused differentiation. And how do we look at this? Generic strategy, if we just define three-way cost leadership, now we know by with example, Walmart and Tesco, their mantra is cost, efficiency, mass market, one size fits all, because they cannot differentiate. They have to operate at a low cost. They can't keep everyone happy. They can't do the research and development. They can't, set up a different shop and unique customer care center to make everyone happy. So they will just sell whatever they can manufacture and produce at low cost, and they'll try to capture a mass market. Differentiation, now we know. McDonald's, FedEx, different customer base. And different service. Hence, different price. What they follow? When we call differentiation, they also do customization, right? So they customize their offering. So to customize, what they also need to do, they will do segmentation. Do you know what is segmentation? Any idea?
Dividing the market into groups, the customers.
Right. So after this slide, I will introduce, though it is not explicitly in this chapter or part of the Porter model, but it is good to know from the marketing books some strategy which will be good to mention in the exam. I will mention briefly and note it down so that you can accordingly make use of those terminologies and the concept. So I will introduce you after this page of the slide.
Just to add a very little, to add very little to what I believe Prateek just said, just to add to that. So like in the orange, you just have different segments, different pieces. So yeah, you're just cutting it off into different segments. So yeah, but that's it. Just wanted to mention that.
So when we try to do the segment, we just try to differentiate on the basis of maybe color, size, etc. of the orange, right? Color, size, even origin maybe.
No, but what I mean is, the way you have little pieces of orange that comes off when you peel an orange. So there are different segments.
Oh yeah, visually, yes. So basically, you're trying to say, it is like this, and then you have.
Yeah, exactly.
All the different cuts of the segment of the onion. So yeah, these are the different a visual way to see what the segmentation means.
Yeah.
Right. So that's differentiation. Focus, concentrating on a limited part of the market. So, and limited means narrow focus, customize, premium price, or differentiated service. So we have been using these words differentiated segment, but I think if we don't introduce a concept from marketing, some terminologies and key concept, it is hard to really visualize what we mean by all these fancy terms: differentiation, segmentation, customization. So because this concept also fall into the ambit of or the syllabus of various marketing textbooks. So in marketing textbooks, we use concept of 4P, right? Product, price, place, and promotion. So whenever a marketing and a company design their product, they keep in mind all these 4Ps. When the product, price, place, and promotion are decided, we also then look into STP. Because what we do, we define a product, who we want, what we want to develop, what services, product, and here product also means services. So what service we want to deliver and what will be the prices, because both of these are linked to each other, right? And when we have a product defined, we also have to accordingly do the placing. What is the placing? Like a logistic, shelf, retail versus wholesale. Because where you want to sell them, that is placing, okay? And promotion, all your marketing and sales effort. So for every company that a company develop, they have to take care of product, price, place, and promotion. And to do that effectively, to do an effective product pricing, placing, and promotion strategy, they need to do effective STP. What is this? Segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Since we have discussed about segmentation a couple of times and targeting, positioning will be discussed in some other strategy like strategic log, etc. So it is required to understand what these three together means. So segmentation, as you know, when we have 100 million of population, we need to divide them in different strata based on various demography, right? So it is called demographic segmentation when we do this. There is a different way of doing segmentation as well, but let's call it demographic segmentation that we follow. When we do the demographic segmentation, what we do? We divide the population on the basis of age or income or some social class maybe, which is legally defined, and education could be, or could be profession, so on and forth. Because based on this, you can see their priority and the choice can be different, right? So that is segmentation. Once segments is defined, then you can target them accordingly. Because if you are looking for service to target to an age group of 15 to 20 years old people, which social media will you choose? Maybe someone will say Facebook or WhatsApp, or maybe an expert marketing house will say, no, we need to use Instagram, right? Because Instagram is more popular amongst this age group as compared to other social media sites. So where you target is on the basis of what segment you have chosen and how you have done the segmentation. And finally, positioning means how do you want to position your product and services, your organization, to this segment, maybe age or income class. What kind of positioning also means what kind of image you want to make about yourself. How you want to be perceived in the mind of the customer. That is the definition of positioning. How you want to be perceived. You want to perceive as a good, bad, a mass marketer, or a very caring company, or a very aggressive company, or a very quality-driven company. What kind of impression you want to make in the mind of your segments. What is this process called? That is called positioning. Understand this concept well, because many other models in SBL is going to use these terminologies, though the syllabus will not specifically ask you to read this, and there will not be a separate question on this. But if you understand this term well, then you can utilize those models better. So this is the meaning of positioning. So 4 Ps and STP work together to define your product on the basis of market, how to position, how to do the targeting strategy, and how the positioning should be done. Okay. So back to Porter's generic model, we have cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. These 3 strategies are called generic strategy of Porter, and there will be a case studies where we need to find out whether the company is pursuing the cost leadership or differentiation or focus, whether it is right to pursue those strategy or not, or if the company wants to move from cost leadership to differentiation or vice versa, what kind of changes they need to make. Those kind of questions can come up in exam using generic strategy. Now, a very interesting scenario which can also come up is combining Porter's generic model that we just studied with Porter 5 forces, which we studied in the past. And what can happen in that case? What we need to look at. So cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. This is on one scale. And if somebody is pursuing, organization is pursuing cost leadership, what could be the implication for 5 forces? What kind of barrier entry can be created by an organization which is focusing cost leadership? Or a cost leadership organization can have certain powers. So what will be the implication for buyer and supplier powers? Can there be a threat of substitutes? Quite low for them, for cost leadership, because they're already very low cost. Anyone who enters in the market, they have to operate at very, very low cost. Hence, threat of substitutes can become low. What will be for competitors? Remember, competitive rivalry, that is in the center. So here is rivalry in the center. Buyer power, supplier power. Here is substitute and new entrants, right? If we visualize the Porter 5 forces again. So this is substitute, this is buyer, this is supplier, and this is a new entrants. And rivalry is in the center together with your company. So generic strategy with 5 forces will look like this. So just to recap this quickly, ability to cut price, debtors, potential entrants. Because you are pursuing cost leadership, it will create a good barrier to entry. How it can be done? You can make some bullet points there. You have unique collaboration with supplier, low cost model, because as you are operating at low cost, you will have high volume, right? Because of the high volume, all the logistics suppliers will be occupied with you, right? These are some of the barrier to entry. If you are already a volume provider, you would have choked the entire supply line. Supply chain management, you need to also look about, consider those. SCM, supply chain. You don't have them free up. New entrants cannot enter and use them. Next, buyer power, ability to offer even lower price to more important buyers. You are already at a competitive edge. Cost leadership is your strategic competitive advantage, right? So if you see a new, or if the buyer is bargaining, then you can lower the price potentially. Supplier power, again, it provides some insulation and more advantage with the powerful suppliers. So this is the way we have to analyze these two models together. On the front of focus, development of core inimitable competencies. We have studied about Apple, right? Earlier. Do you consider Apple as a focused company or differentiated? Do we have any other thought or opinion? Apple as the electronic or mobile maker, is that pursuing a focus strategy or a differentiation strategy?
I would say both.
In case of both, it will be differentiation only.
So I think focus because it only targets a specific customers which want luxury premium phones or products.
Right. So if we were to debate whether it is a differentiated or not, the question is that are they targeting anyone who cannot afford a mobile phone below 50,000 rupees in India?
No.
Not really, right?
No.
Yeah. So the fact that they are not targeting anybody who cannot afford a mobile phone more than 50,000, then Apple is not their target customer. In that case, they are not considering, of course, cost leadership out of the window. They're not even looking at those customers, and that could be mass market, isn't it? So 80% of their market could easily fall under 50K, which they are not considering. So they would be likely be on focus. Nihar, what is your take then? Just to
Yeah, no,
consider
that
any
that
other
makes sense. That makes
factor.
sense actually.
Yeah. So then, if Apple is focusing, the focusing word is such that it keeps coming here. So if Apple is focus strategy based, then what is the entry to barrier to entry for them? Their focus itself is the good barrier because development of core inimitable competency is their strength because they are so unique, and that is barrier. Now, buyer power. You as a buyer, what power that you have? Quite low, that we agree. So if we take the example of Apple, it very well explains everything that a focus will have from the perspective of five forces. And that's why I chose Apple, because we have discussed Apple from five forces perspective, and see, everything falls in place. Large buyers have less power to negotiate from core competency. Can you go into the Apple showroom and say, no, it is too expensive, give me a discount of 20%? Big no. They even, I think they stopped providing the kind of some extensible charger, right, Nihar? Last time we discussed.
That's right. Yeah.
So see how little the buyers have the power with Apple. Supplier power. Suppliers power may not have effect at all. Wow. How accurate we were. We discussed this at length. Suppliers are really considered bullied, in fact, because they have to give a long rope to Apple. And Apple will still call them every end of the day, asking them to supply at their own terms and conditions. So they don't have any supplier power. Specialized attributes and core competencies, ward of substitutes. Who can provide the substitutes for such a focused supplier or company? And rivals cannot meet differentiation developed for customer because it takes time, and even if they can provide this product, it will take time to create those kind of what did we learn? What kind of word? Perceived image, right? These are the terminology that you have to pick up. Perceived image or value. It cannot be created soon. It will take decades to create that kind of image in the mind of customer. Are we good with this? Can we now apply both of the strategy together in any case study? Because often when we learn about one strategy at a time, it may be difficult to interlink them and combine while applying this. And that is the key strength for any case study. If you can combine two strategy, then it will be easy to crack any questions. Okay. Some more examples very quickly. Low price versus uniqueness. Okay, so let's call it, if you are more familiar with this word, cost. Okay, cost and uniqueness. So if you have a narrowly defined market, Suzuki, in terms of uniqueness for narrowly defined market, Land Rover and Subaru. For broad market, Hyundai and BMW and Volvo for differentiation strategy. Are you still good with this? Any other thought? So this is just to help you pick a couple of names for each type of strategy from the automobile sector as well. So now we have examples from automobile, mobile, food industry. We can use those examples and cases to clarify or explain any strategy in our case studies. I'll provide you these slides anyway, by the way, so you don't need to note it down. Now we come to a new strategy called strategic clock. Why it is called clock? Because it uses the shape of the clock, which has 8 different points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can practice it whenever you look at any clock. Of course, it doesn't have 12 dials. That describes how to compete in terms of benefits and price. What is the meaning of benefit and price? So what do we offer and how much we charge? So there has to be a balance, right? Benefit and price, something that we call cost benefit analysis. It happens for each and every product. We charge a cost and we provide a benefit. There has to be a trade-off and balance. How we look into that is based on where the company is based. So we can pursue 8 different strategy as per the strategic clock. Strategic positioning. Now you see the word positioning is coming again and again. Strategic positioning to include the 8 strategy, and this is called Bowman's strategic clock. It is not Porter's, by the way. Many times people get confused that it is also Porter, because Porter is the one who almost wrote different strategy in SBL papers. So what do we talk about in a strategic clock? In Bowman's strategic clock, markets positioning, how the customer should be targeted and positioned, how companies should create the perceived value. Because positioning and perceived values are interrelated. But then the value is not in the thin air. Value is always goes hand in hand with the price, right? I hope you remember the word from performance management paper, VFM. Value for money. This is not part of the Bowman's clock, but this is just a way to understand the concept. I have given this 6 multicolored ideas that how Bowman's strategic clock can help you utilize the different concepts. So it helps you in the positioning. Positioning is done on the basis of what kind of value we want to create. What is our perceived value in the mind of customer? So when customer perceive the value, what they refer first? They will refer the price, right? Because everything is relative. Whether you are a good service provider or bad service provider, it is with reference to the cost and the price. What price you charge, that will decide how much VFM you provide, value for money. Okay, so then the product has to add the value. It has to differentiate itself from the market, and hence that differentiation will provide a competitive advantage to the organization. So there are 6 aspects that we analyze for strategic clock. Are you clear about this before we move on?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So here is the first clue about this. The challenge of business strategy, just to make the ground, to find a way of achieving a sustainable competitive advantage over the other competing product and firms in a market. That should be the challenge to address. Every company has an objective or mission. So sustainable competitive advantage, we have learned about this earlier, but Bauman's strategic clock try to address this only. How to first of all become competitive and have a competitive advantage. But having a competitive advantage for the short term does not work, so make it sustainable. So what is competitive advantage? When we provide a greater value, that is a competitive advantage. And how it can be either by lower price or greater benefit, right? Because we discussed earlier how to assess the greater value. It depends on few things. 1, VFM. 2, CBA, cost benefit analysis. When you do the trade-off between, when you analyze the trade-off between the cost and benefit, you'll realize that some organizations are giving bigger benefit, some are at bigger cost. Plus, you can also look at the value for money from any organization. This is also quite a popular term. When you look at the MBA colleges, they typically quote value for money, perceived value for money by students. So these terminologies are really used in the market. Perceived value for money or cost benefit analysis. So if the customer think that you are providing greater value, that means you are going to have a competitive advantage. And there are various ways, either provide a greater value or have a lower cost. Both will mean the same thing ultimately, because it is considered on the relative scale. So strategic clock give you 8 options to strategically position yourself in the market, which means how a product should be positioned given the most competitive position in the market or where the other players are. How you can position yourself. We discussed about this already. There are only 2 ways, either lower the price or increase the value. There is no other formula. And how we can use that? These are the 8 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why it starts from here? We will know this soon. But see the 2 dimension price starting with low to high and perceived value. Now you see the term coming up again and again, perceived value. This is the image that you have created in the mind of customer. So perceived value to the consumer. Again, low to high. And where we sit, we position ourselves is what Bauman's clock is going to explain. For example, if we are at position 3, what does that mean? We are not at extreme low value, right? Just to help you understand the clock, you're not at the extreme low value or a low price. You are in the middle, right? Somewhere you are here. In terms of the value, you're not at the top, but you are above average, right? You're here when it comes to the value, which is quite decent, quite high. but still charging below average. Do you agree? You are charging below average price, but higher than average value. Isn't that great? Without understanding other details, you can just say that this is a great position to be on. And what if you are charging average price here, but giving highest level possible value? You are at the highest. That's differentiation. This is also great. This is the best actually. In fact, here even point number 2, you are charging lowest cost or the price, but giving average value. This is also great. Using this, you can check where many organizations are currently. So you have really 3 levels to assess: low, average, high at both of the scale, and then you can figure out where any organizations are placed.
Price sensitive customers, simple products and services.
Position 1. This one. This is not the right position to be on. Start with, you are charging higher than the lowest price, below average, and same is in terms of value as well. But in fact, you are still not at a disastrous level. So look at this. Not a very competitive position for a business. So basically, with reference to position 1, this is a kind of a commentary, okay, to explain what, in terms of the understanding, you can see the position 1 means you are here below average price and below average value. So you are not disproportionately high anywhere. It is just kind of a very below average product, below average price, which is okay. You can still survive, but it's not a very competitive position for a business. Product is not differentiated. Yeah, because it is below average. The customer perceived very little value despite a low price is a bargain basement strategy. So it is trying to remain cheap as chips. But this is open for price war.
Growth strategies. Competitive strategies, kind of growth strategy.
Second one, low price, position 2, where it was mid value. In terms of value, it is average. In terms of the price, it is lowest. See, this is the lowest price, right? Nothing goes beyond this. Lowest price, but mid value. Not a very competitive position for a business. Sorry. Business position themselves here look to be the low cost leader because it has the lowest price. Cost minimization is required for this to be a successful. So they have to remain the most competitive in terms of cost. They have to serve the high volume. Otherwise, you can't have any profit. What example we have given earlier? Lidl or Walmart, right? They operate at an extremely low price, but serve the massive market. So either you need to continue to be low price and target highest possible market volume. High volume of output can still generate high overall profit. So they seek volume maximization strategy. What is the formula in the economics for that? Marginal revenue should be equal to marginal cost. So long as your additional, so long as the cost to manufacture or produce additional product is equal to the additional revenue, they should continue to sell, right? That is the strategy to pursue for position 2. Have you heard of IKEA? Used IKEA earlier?
Yes.
And what they do, why they are considered a good example for hybrid strategy. Because the best part of hybrid strategy is the position 3, which is moderate price. You agree? The price is still moderate and differentiation is above average. So they are moderately differentiated, but price is still average. So hybrid strategy combines certain aspects of low price because they are still below average. So you can call them lower price, but product is differentiated. So it has a strength of the strategy, strength to add value to the customer. Customer will see this as a perceived value, and they will feel that the price is lower and very reasonable vis-a-vis any other product in the market. There is another example considered actually similar to this is Lush Cosmetic. This is a cosmetic brand. What they do, they try to differentiate themselves on the basis of ethics. So when they manufacture cosmetic, they don't or minimize the use of animals, animal testing, animal product or byproducts. Yet they do not charge a very high price.
It's quite an expensive, actually, it's quite an expensive brand. I use it quite a lot, but yes, it's cruelty free. And
Yeah.
it's highly ethical, as you say, no animal products, and really good products, but it is at the same time quite expensive. But people are willing to pay that because they know that it's the funds are going to going to the right place, supporting the right cause.
Right. So precisely, thanks for adding that. So they are free from any animal testing. They have a very high perceived CSR value. And generally, when a company tries to pursue those strategies, they become very expensive. Because generally, you can remain low cost when you pursue, or you can be a average cost when you pursue the testing on animals, etc. But when you give up those things in the interest of the CSR, the product become very expensive. But the general perception remains that, okay, they are expensive, as you said, and they could have been much higher in terms of expense. So like IKEA, that is considered like a hybrid position. And let's see where the hybrid falls. It's position number 3. But yeah, even I understand that in terms of the prices, they are quite expensive. They are considered like a premium brand. Yet we think that it is hybrid because they could have been much more expensive, given they don't do the testing on animals. So
correct, and it's vegan. All the products are vegan as well.
Oh, that's another great one. So let me just write it here, the name, some of the uniqueness: vegan, animal testing free.
So considering all that, it is expensive, but customers still don't feel it's as expensive as it should be because it has all these elements.
Yeah, CSR positive. So Lush Cosmetics. Differentiation focus, position number 4. just to give you a quick visuals where it falls here on the top. Okay, price, if the price is here, the value is here, then the differentiation is on this point. Okay, where do you see here this one? It is average, it's just in the middle. So it is average in price. Where it is in the value? Top. So you must have had coffee here, Starbucks coffee. Highest level of perceived added value. Branding plans a key roles in the strategy. Why? Because just because you offer a great product doesn't mean that it will have high value. You remember the definition of the perceived value? Not only you have to give great product, you also have to have great visibility, right? Only then you can consider to have great value, because customer has to perceive you as a great company. High quality product with strong brand awareness and loyalty is perhaps the best placed to achieve the relatively price and added value that a differentiation study requires. Are you fine with this so far? Make sense? Because the skill that you should get from this strategy clock is when a case study is given to you, or there could be 2-3 different companies, you should be able to quickly spot where the company falls on the strategy clock. A. B, you also need to be aware of how one can move from here to here. Because see, there are 6, 7, 8. These 2-3 positions are where the examiners love to ask questions. One, highly risky high margin. This is a very risky position. Plus, this one is a loss of market share. If a company is operating at 8, how can you move it to maybe 1 or 2? You might need to you might need to consider those strategy. And for that, first you need to identify where the company is, 1 or 8 or 7. How can you move from one position to another position? Or the third thing, what are the cost and benefit? What are the pros and cons and implications? What are the risks or reward or the benefit of being at any particular position? Can I sustain to be here? Number 6. Or is it worth to be at 8? Or how to be at 7? What is the strategy to be at 7? Or maybe a company like GE, which has 8 different portfolio and the verticals, they might be at a different position in the same strategic clock. So there could be some questions around these aspects, and hence you need to be able to quickly identify the company where they are and how to navigate those companies, move from one position to another one. So that is an expectation from this model. So the goal here is for differentiation, to provide consumers with the maximum value, yet with the average price. So a really top quality product or service, which has the loyalty, which has a customer, which has a high perceived value, which has a robust brand awareness, is probably best placed to even attain the high prices and long-term competitive advantage. Again, companies like even Nike, even Apple, these will be considered to be at this place. Maybe little controversial for Apple to be called average price, but given the value it creates, because everything is relative. So value with respect to the price. So these are the top-notch company. They are considered to have highest brand awareness and value with respect to the price. So we can give the example of Nike, we can tell Apple, Starbucks for a differentiation focused company, position 4. Focused differentiation. What do we know about them? They are here. Price, above average, but value, that is also above average. So they are proportionate. Above average price and above average value. I think they are doing fairly well. In terms of the Porter's generic model, let's reflect here. Just understanding the strategy clock is not going to give us any brownie point in the exam. Let's reflect. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
So in terms of Porter's generic model, how do you perceive this? How do you consider this? Which strategy it is following? If you are at position number 5 and you're asked to apply a strategy clock as well as a Porter's generic strategy, what kind of a strategy this company is following if it is at point number 5, position 5?
Focus, because they are targeting a specific market, a niche of a market, and they're also charging, would we say, a premium price for that. So therefore it is under the focused aspect of the generic model.
Yeah. So the key is both the red text here. Highest price level. Okay. In fact, it may not be fair to say highest, but yeah, it is quite high price level and high perceived value. Both are high here. But it is most reasonable. Above average price, above average value. What are the companies that you can give the example?
Sir, Gucci.
Oh yes, that I also wrote the same first. Rolls-Royce, Gucci. Rolex. Louis Vuitton we already have, so we can write that one. Something else. We have already lost Apple. Yeah, Apple is not for focus differentiation. Tiffany. Any other? Lamborghini. This is for the target customer who can pay even 10 times, 25 times bigger, right? We can keep these attributes in the mind, because once we have these things already in our frame of mind, quickly we can spot in the case study. We will not have the doubt. If you see any company like Gucci or Rolls-Royce, you should not have a doubt whether it is in position 5 or position 4. Because the difference between position 4 and 5 is position 4 is very expensive, maybe 2 to 3x. Tell me if you have a different opinion, right? But if you talk about position 5, it will be like 10 to 25x, right?
And also the main difference is that the customer base differentiation is for all, and focus is for a specific segment of the market.
Precisely. And how do you know this? There, Porter helps you. Porter's generic model helps that, right? Because that tells you that focus differentiation is for a very narrowly defined segment. Whereas position number 4, right? We were talking about earlier. This is for like customization for all segments. Position 4 actually in a way provides the customization for all the different group 1, 2, 3, 4. It will offer different products and different prices probably. But focus differentiation, it ignores like 95% of the market, or could be even 99% of the market. It is just for 1%, right? With that at the top of your mind, you can easily spot the company which is pursuing strategy number 5. Will be easy for case studies. Now, risk high margins, position 6. This is really a disastrous price value. So we have reached until 5. This is 6. Price, highest, value, average. Can you sustain there?
Not really. Very difficult to survive.
Yeah, it is doomed to fail. Because this strategy is not offering anything extra with regard to perceived value. You can see the perceived value is average. Price is highest. So customer will discover a better positioned service or product which has more perceived value. So either customer will try to do what? Customer will either try to basically, if they are paying this much, they will slightly move here and will switch to 5. Or if they have to just get lower average value, then they will move to strategy number 2. So 2, 3, 4, 5. All these will be the target for customer to switch from 6. They will switch anywhere between 2, 3, 4, 5. Any company that you know? Probably they all have failed anyway. Monopoly. What is the sign of monopoly? Low value, high price. Seven. Above average price. If this is the average, above average price, and value below average. Typically, many government agencies, public sector entities, when they have a license, no one can challenge them. They can set the price and you have to buy that. You have to agree to this. You don't have a choice. They are the market maker. All these symptoms are for the great monopolist. In UK, Royal Mail is the prime example. And anything from the software industry earlier?
Microsoft.
What did they do?
They create software for like on almost all laptops before.
Right. So
But they cannot be substituted except people could opt for iOS. I mean, Apple, which is way more expensive. So in that price range, no one could challenge them. And it is basically in every device.
Yeah.
Of any company. So.
You know how much they were fined earlier by European Union court? 1.3 billion for monopolistic and monopolistic are two different strategy. So for monopolistic practices, they were fined $1.3 billion back in 1990s because they were charging unreasonable price and keeping all the codes and making the customers, clients dependent on them. Hence, they are found to have monopoly and we are fined as well. After that, they started to disclose some of the codes and try to become more reasonable. And Pfizer is allegedly blamed for pursuing the monopoly practices. So you can safely give example of Pfizer's too in the pharmaceutical industry. Loss of market share, position 8. Can you guess what they're doing?
Cheap, below cost, just to capture the market share, almost anti-competitive.
Yeah, they are still pursuing an average price actually when they are at position 8 here. So this
Sorry,
is
loss of
8.
market share. Sorry, loss of market share. That's my bad.
So they are at this. So charging kind of a decent price, average, but they are at the bottom of the value pyramid. So this is a recipe for disaster. Setting a middle range, a standard price. Yes, it is standard price, middle, but product with low perceived value here. And that was
because Tesco is associated with cheap products, but as you say, the products are not that cheap like Lidl, so they're losing out on that as well, and the value that they're providing is less as well for what they're charging. So
right.
That's why they've lost huge amount of market share.
Yeah. So Lidl is here. Point number 1, when they have low price and kind of below average value, and Tesco came at average price because Lidl is still giving a tough competition on the price to them, but yet higher value. So, but what is happening? I mean, they have been criticized for long for high price, low value, etc. Are they improving recently?
They lost their direction, and I think they brought back the old leadership team because they lost focus. They went into clothing, they went into credit cards, petrol, everything, and they lost their main focus, which was groceries. And so they brought back their old leadership team, and the share price is starting to come back again. So yes, there has been an improvement, but yes, they have lost a huge amount of market share because they completely lost focus, and instead of focusing what they were good at and holding that market, they started to diversify too much without really focusing on the core products. But yes,
Yeah,
it has definitely got better now.
They become expansionist without still adding value to where they need it the most. Because expansion works when you have satisfied the customer at the first place. With a dissatisfied and disgruntled customer, it is dangerous to move and diversify. Actually, this is a very good example for our next matrix, Ansoff matrix, Nihar. What you said.
Yeah, it's a perfect example because there's so many lessons to learn from this.
Yeah. So also keep that one hot, because in the next class we are going to talk about Ansoff matrix, and for that it is a perfect example, because in that model we'll talk about product and service expansion, diversification, expansion of the market and product line, etc. So there it will be a good example as well from the practical perspective.
So even Reliance can also be a good example for Ansoff matrix. What do you think?
Yeah, indeed. So since in 2 minutes we'll complete this one, and then we'll jump to the textbook, but I think we have covered all the different angle possible from strategic clock perspective. We'll jump to Ansoff matrix in the next class. One thing I would like to complete this model with is BlackBerry phone. So BlackBerry phone was the one which was providing the email to corporate clients and facility for secured email platform, right? And it was also a dominant player I believe, at that point of time in a smartphone market, focusing on the business
Yeah,
customers.
it had a huge market share.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, they just lost it all.
exactly.
There was a time when Apple and BlackBerry were like the premium phones at that time.
It was premium phone, but for corporate business client. Now, a great player in the smartphone as well.
BBM Messenger was also famous.
Which one? Which messenger?
Yeah,
BBM
BBM
Messenger.
Messenger, BlackBerry
Oh,
Messenger.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So it was a
But
great player
the
in the
problem with them
smartphone
is
market.
they never innovated. And WhatsApp came in, Apple products came in, and all these products came in. Whereas people like companies like BlackBerry and Nokia, they never did anything. They just sat on the market share, thinking that they're too big to collapse. But then came Apple's and obviously, all the other phones, and then the apps like WhatsApp replaced BlackBerry Messenger, so everything changed. The marketplace changed.
I just wrote a point that starting 2008, iPhone, Samsung, Android, or ones, and it's WhatsApp. So all the Android phones, WhatsApp, actually started to replace BlackBerry because it was still quite expensive vis-a-vis other products. Perceived value was, so there was nothing unique for the price it was charging. Just because it was kind of have a great list of corporate client, it was not enough for them to sustain in the market. So after 2008, their decline started with the advent of Android and Samsung and iPhone, etc. And it started to lose the market. So that was another company at position number 8, loss of market share. Average price, low value. Of course, before
Nokia is a
2008,
good one as well, Nidhi.
sorry?
Nokia is a good one. Nokia is another really good
Yeah,
one.
Nokia is another good one. Yeah. Second example, Nokia. Similar to BlackBerry in terms of strategy.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So when we look at the strategic clock and when we think of Nokia was never into differentiation. They were always a cost-based, company offering cheap phones, right? Now when their market share fell, they came from position, I think 3 of 2 to 8. Like, can you explain how is that possible in the strategic clock? Like, can a company jump from position 2 to position 8?
Oh, okay. So it was a low cost, and I believe as far as 2002 around, it used to be low cost, and it was at position 2. With the time, but remember, Nokia, despite the fact it was a phone of the masses, having a massive client base, it was still kind of very low cost, but started to go into some high-tech models. In 70, 72, 95, those models started to come in Nokia range. Nokia market share was growing, and so was the price and some of the features as well. So I think Nokia went through a life cycle of 2 to 4, 5, 6, etc. Of course, it was not at 6 or 7. It actually bypassed 6 and 7, and then it jumped to 8 suddenly because its price was considered average. It was still, if you look at the price of Nokia 70, 72, 95, those phones, the price was quite handsome. Okay. Now, in terms of value, up to 2010, it was considered that it is giving a value at maybe at 6 or position 5. But when other smartphones started to come in the market, especially Android ones, its value was almost negligible given the price. It could not sustain with respect to its price, the value at position 5. It started to fall on 6, 7, 8. So, and that happened after 2010.
So that means for a strategy to fail, it should go through the whole cycle, or can we also go anti-clockwise and then lose market share, like from 2, 1, and then 8? Is that even possible in this strategic clock?
Generally, it do not go 2, 1, 8. It goes clockwise. One thing. Secondly, you rightly said it doesn't have to go through all the points like Nokia. Nokia did not go through 6 or 7 because it never had the monopoly. 7 is very rare. It did not have 6 as well because it did not decline that fast too. So it went through 2 and then it went to 3. I think it was at 5 as well for some time and then dropped to 8 and declined. 6, 7 was completely out of picture for Nokia. It was never at this as well, 5, the top one. Sorry, yeah, this is 4. It was not at 4 as well. It was a 2, 3, 5, and then 8.
Right, makes sense, sir.
Because this is the most topmost performer. When you're providing average price and the highest value, Nokia was never at this position. And that's why every product will have their own what do you call contours. It will go through a different dots and will suddenly fall if they are not making the right progress. Especially when someone is going, when any company exceeds this point number 4, actually they have to be very, very careful. Once you exceed point number 4, which means the above average price, then you have to ensure that the quality is really, really high. Otherwise, it is easy to fall on it. Now, a summary of entire strategic clock. As we discussed, 6, 7, and 8 are uncompetitive. This one, this, and this. So monopolic. It was lucky that MS and Pfizer actually made their ways, right? Risky high margin, almost non-existent because any big company do not survive here for long. So we do not have really an example to quote a famous example, right? Number 8, we already talked about Nokia, BlackBerry. Now you agree 6 and 8 are uncompetitive because price is greater than perceived value. Whenever this exists, this means it is 6 and 8. So remember this formula: P is greater than V. Then fall is imminent. So if you are writing a formula in Excel, if P is greater than V, then P is equal to F. Whenever the price is bigger than value, then position is fell. That is the summary of the entire model. Any other departing thought?
No, sir.
All right. So in the next discussion, we will jump to Ansoff matrix. And with that, we'll finish chapter number 5. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So maybe we'll I'll let you know if I can still plan one or two case studies, or else we'll try to finish Ansoff matrix and one more chapter, because we really need to have a good bit of models before we start attempting the case studies. But since we are finishing fast paced, we'll have good list of case studies soon. So we need to complete these models as fast as possible. Okay. So see you on Sunday.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.